Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Reclaiming Your Life podcast. I am live in the Facebook group and also on the podcast. So, I just wanted to share some words of encouragement with you all this morning, this afternoon, in the night, whenever you listen to this. If you're not listening to it live, if I can get my words right. I was doing my devotional by my good friend. She is redeemed 30-day reflection devotional, Tony Simmons' husband. And one of the prompts, the reflection piece was it said, reflect on a time in your life when you had plans and expectations, but God plans were bigger and better. And what came in my spirit at that time when I was writing that this morning, God reminded me of buying this house. And I want to use it because some people who know me know the testimony, and I have shared it, times in the podcast or even on live in the Facebook group. But what God had revealed to me and reminded me was that his plans is always bigger and better. And when I was buying the house during this process, it was the whole process almost took me out because selling one home and purchasing another, it is not for the weak. It's just not. And it was during the pandemic, and you're hearing all types of things. And that's another thing. When the world is saying one thing, God is saying another. And in the beginning, I was only pre-approved for 280,000. And during that time, in the height of the pandemic, 280,000 was getting you a home that you need to rehab. Point blank and period. It wasn't giving me all the bells and the whistles. It wasn't giving me what God has shown me my house would be. It was to the point where I was going to give up on the whole process because I was getting discouraged and saying, well, maybe what God is showing me is not for right now. Mm. I feel that for someone because you're probably going through something where the process is hard and you feel like you want to give up and you're feeling like, well, maybe it's not right now. Maybe it's in the future, right? So as I'm going through this house buying process in a whole nother state that I did not reside in at the time, know nothing about their real estate and how things happen. Um, I feel like the first realtor that I was working with was like almost a scam because she was not for me. She just wasn't. And this is the thing, people. She said that she was a woman of God. She was the wife of a pastor, right? They have their own church. And it also shows sometimes church folks ain't always right and they don't do right by you. I'm just putting that out there because that's what God also showed me. It's not everybody who say they love the Lord and they have a church or whatever that they have a good heart or have good intentions. Mind you, I still don't know if the lady had a church or not. I still don't know. Um, but going through the process, there was a house that we had viewed online. I'm not even gonna say looked at. We viewed online, and it was okay, right? And I was like, oh well, it has the bedrooms. There was still some things about it that I was like, that I didn't really, like too much. And she was just like, well, we have to put in an offer because houses, it is whatever the case might be at the time, where the houses was just going as they were put on the market. One day they were gone, like in a day or two. So she was encouraging me to um bid over the asking price, and I think it was almost $8,000 over. And my offer had got accepted, and I'm like, okay. And I still was like, I don't know about this house. And when we paid for the inspection. The guy who did the inspection, it took him a pretty lengthy time, which I appreciate. Well, inspection is supposed to take long anyway, especially with the size of the house that it was. Um, some altercation, whatever went down, with words involving the inspector and the homeowner, where they was like, why is the inspector here for so long? So then that was just like, red flag, like, what are you guys hiding, right? And speaking with the inspector, he was saying that, they just basically lived in the house. They didn't really upkeep with the house. There's some things in the house that needs to be done. He's pointing out certain things. And I'm just like, okay, thank you, appreciate it. So that was my way of backing out of that negotiation, that deal, however you want to say it. And that was also a whole tussle too, because again, the realtor was not for me. She was telling me that the homeowner wants to see a copy of the report before he releases my deposit. And I said, well, that's a lie. I said he ain't seeing nothing unless he gonna pay for it. And I was actually shocked and taken aback by that, because you as a realtor knows that he does not have the right to get a copy of this report. And, I was speaking to my husband and he was like, well, you need to get it back, do what you got. I was like, I ain't worried, because I know I'm going to get it back, because that just don't make any sense. I was like, I'm not even worried about it. Long story short, got the money back, right? Anywho, so now I'm just like, I don't know what to do. So I reached out to an old coworker of mine who lives in Florida and asked her if she knew any realtors. And she said, yes, I do. I was like, okay, cool. Let's go. So talking to this new realtor, she was so nice, explaining all my options and everything. And then she said, ever thought about a new construction home? And I'm like, I said I did, but never really like looked into it, because we talked about it with the previous realtor, and she kind of talked us out of it, saying that there was all these extra fees and all this stuff that's associated with the new home. And we're just like, okay, that's not what we want. But then the real reason came out, because I was explaining, all of this to the new realtor. She was like, oh, she's like, well, maybe, she wouldn't have gotten her commission right away, because you won't get your commission until the house is complete. And I said, that makes sense why she was really deterring us from a new home. And then, my God, and then now let's fast forward. So going through this process with the new home, this was never on my radar. It was never on my list of things. When I thought about a new home, I was thinking about my dream home, my end all be all home, the last home. Um, this home that we were looking for, where we're living now, I wasn't even expecting a new home. I was expecting what I'm accustomed to, right? A home that was already built, that people probably lived in how many times, that was just never a thought, never even crossed my mind. Because again, I'm thinking a new home is going to be my end all be home, and it's going to be built to the way that I like and what I want in it. And God just really showed me, like, look, I have bigger and better for you. See, we limit what God can do. And when we limit what God can do for us, it's because of our limited mindset. We think less of us, but God thinks highly of us. And majority of that stems from the things that we've been through in life and what we went through, right? We thinking that we can't afford this, or we thinking we can't have this. But I'm here to tell you that God has something bigger and better. Don't ever uh what's the word? Dim, I'm gonna just say lack of words, dim your light. Don't ever think that you can't have what God is placing in your heart and what He has shown you. And to go back to my plans and His plans, because what I thought was gonna be ours wasn't. God has something in the works this whole time. And, and there's probably a lesson out of that besides of all church folks ain't who they say they is, they not always right. There's probably another lesson in that. But I'm going to ask God to reveal the lesson in that, because everything that we go through is for a reason and for a purpose. And if something doesn't go the way that you expect it to go, trust and believe there is a lesson behind it. So that's what I am going to do. Ask God to reveal that lesson to me. But I wanted to share and to encourage with you, if you have ever felt or even going through right now where you're thinking that the thing that you're waiting for, the thing that you're currently going through the process for, that is not now. It's not a now time, it's a later time. But if God is showing you that thing now, it's a now time. And you got to have faith, and you have to continue to push through what you're going through. And you can't give up. You can't close every door, every opportunity that's given to you, because the way that you thinking that you're going to get that thing is really not. God has a whole different way, because sometimes God wants to show us that we have to change the way that we think. We have to be open to receive things in a different way. He is a out of the box kind of God, and we place him in the box thinking that he's going to do something for us one way, but then he have something planned in another way. I was listening to the podcast, my dear future wifey, whatever the podcast is called. My apologies, but I was listening to when he was talking to Pastor Michael Todd, and he was saying how he had walked the land for uh um like a luxury mansion that he want to have for um kids in the system. And he said he was walking the land. He said he prayed over it, everything. And he said that God was going to give him that land, that's the land that he was to have. And then he said that a woman, I don't know the exact words that she came, he either had a conversation with her or she was on the podcast during the conversation. Um, and she said that she going to write him a check for the land. So he was thinking, or as anybody else would think, that God is going to give them a plan how to get the money for the down payment, right? Because it was some millions of dollars. But see, God is an out of the box kind of guy. He would send people to even bless you. See, he couldn't have gotten that land if he was so prideful and said, no, I'm not going to take your money. I believe God going to do it for me in another way. And that's the thing. God is an outside box God, where he's going to do things not in the conventional, in the traditional way. It's going to be some things that's outside of the box. So um don't miss your opportunity. Don't miss your blessings because you're trying to figure it out on your own, or you're trying to do it on your own. And I'm saying that from a place of love, and also a place of someone who's been through things where I try to do it on my own. And I could have blocked my blessing from this house when the new realtor had suggested to me. I could have then said, no, it's going to be too many fees, and all this and stuff, because I still had what the old realtor had instilled in my head. But we can't do that either. You can't block your blessings or what God has for you because, again, your old way of thinking or others' perception, right? And the Bible said, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And this is something that you have to do on a daily basis, because there's always going to be something where some trials and tribulations is going to come, and you always going to have to renew your mind. We are going to experience some things that's going to make us feel uncomfortable, and we're going to always have to renew our mind. There's going to be some people who come and who take advantage of us, who treats us wrong, who hurts us physically and emotionally and mentally, but we're going to have to choose to renew our mind. So that is what I wanted to share with you all. today. I hope that it bless you. I hope it encourage you. And I hope you to really understand that God wants more and He wants a bigger and better for you. So that's all I have for you today. So I hope you have a wonderful and blessed day. And until next time, bye.